So Mark, tell me your backstory. I would love to hear.
Together with my two co-founders,
Meet Marc Klingen, co-founder of Langfuse. Founded in 2023, Langfuse is an open-source platform for LLMs observability. After participating in YC and raising
2022, we got accepted into Y Combinator.
Langfuse grew rapidly as developers adopted it to run AI applications at scale. Most recently, Langfuse joined ClickHouse, the leading real-time analytics database company.
The next thing I want to sort of speak about is the ClickHouse acquisition. Would love to understand from you and ClickHouse as well.
I would recommend for anyone hearing about this now to read our blog post where we went into great detail. I'll give you the summary. So we are huge fans of the ClickHouse product. We migrated to ClickHouse as an underlying data store for Langfuse. So it's great for products that have very many interactive analytical workloads, such as Langfuse.
Then the next question is sort of looking ahead in observability space. Where do you see sort of AI observability evolve in the next couple of years? How does firms AI companies should sort of think about this and prepare themselves for this? Any thoughts on that, Mark?
I use Cursor a lot, even for personal productivity of, I don't know, I want to check whether 10 contracts actually have the right names in it. Okay, I'll just drop them in a folder and ask Cursor to write a script in order to parse PDF files and map them to a CSV. I'm not opening 10 long PDF files and trying to check it myself.
So Mark, tell me your backstory. I would love to hear. How did you get to building Langfuse? What's the story behind Langfuse and how your sort of career sort of helped you to get here? I would love to hear that.
Yeah, together with my two co-founders, Max and Clemens, in 2022, we got accepted into Y Combinator with a very unrelated idea in more a B2B SaaS space. Then went to San Francisco. It was right when ChatGPT launched, over the Christmas holidays of 2022, and then realized that it's really interesting how the idea that we had and the customers that we had were more in a traditional space. There was less upside, less excitement, less things are moving, and we realized, okay, we need to be we need to build with these LLMs and see what's possible. So it was early 2023 building with the GPT-3 API. And we went through so many ideas because we just want to see what's possible with this technology. And I think regarding Y Combinator, there's this demo day at the end of the 4-month program. We had this product which basically did full stack code changes, multi-file edits off of a GitHub issue. So you basically just write an issue and it does full stack changes. And but with the GPT-4 API and the capabilities, it was really hard to do anything that's actually impressive. You could just do a single page landing pages. So we saw that the idea is very obvious, that it has huge upside, but in the end, the question is can we make this in this market? We need to wait potentially, we don't know what the model timelines are. But at the same time, we had two interesting things where one, everyone basically disregarded all of the application companies as GPT wrappers. And we knew from the whole YC batch, all of the people around us, that actually building production-grade applications is really hard. It's more experimentation driven. You need cross-functional teams to do it. You kind of want full visibility into these agent outputs, not just logs. You need a nice view to render them and understand what's going on. But then evaluation is not just production observability where you get an alert, but you need to somehow on a qualitative level understand the semantics and the output of what's going on in order to even flag what you want to be looking at. And it's not alerting, but it's always a couple of % of execution are always not great. So you want rather interactive debugging and understanding the situation. So that was what made us really, really interested in this problem. And thus we built an initial prototype, brought it to a couple of YC companies. They loved it, spent hours and hours per day in product. We then did demo day in summer, launched it open source. And then from there, we just saw great inbound and grew a lot as a project. It was really amazing. And yeah, we can't be more excited to build in this than to build in the space, as it's amazing to work with these customers, with this community, to build the tooling that people need in order to build actually useful LLM applications.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a huge fan of Langfuse. I personally use it a lot with my work, my previous workplace as well. So definitely, I see the value of Langfuse that brings into it, especially when you deploy AI applications out in the wild. So yeah, amazing. Really love the product. So I want to go back to one of the things that you said sometime back. You said LLM applications are easy to demo, but hard to run in production. I think this is very common sort of a theme. So where do you first see this sort of gap, and what sort of pattern did you start noticing across teams? I'm sure you come across a lot of teams deploying in different domains, different types of applications. Where do you start seeing this gap, and what it look like?
Yeah. You work with like thousands of teams that build applications. Often they start super early, but then some of them scale a lot. So like on our website, there's like Intuit, Merck, like many also of these large organizations, or like many of these Y Combinator companies then that we work with during our batch that now are like very successful companies, was really exciting. Usually the problem here when going from like demo into production is that while you demo it, you build it, you use it, so you know what you plan for, and then these kinds of like happy paths just work. And like the context is the context you control. It's not like custom provided context. The input is the intent that you plan for, and then like you can really over optimize on these kind of demo use cases to look good. But then actual customers often get like an open-ended text input box to use these applications, or can provide their own context when they add their Gmail account to let your like application do something with emails. And these input prompts or these emails can be very different from what you've planned with. And that's, I think, one of the core drivers of the problem, that the input is very unconstrained. The second problem is like that there's like a generalization problem of these models, where even if you have like a similar use case that just works, that doesn't mean that all use cases of this category will just work. So controlling whether a category of use cases works needs multiple examples, and then still there might be outliers where to you as a human it looks like exactly the same, but like it doesn't work, and just like a model generalization problem. And yeah, these I think are the big ones. And often it's like the person then maybe also like creating the application, they don't even know about the full domain, because they should replace like a manual label process, and now they don't even know how to instruct someone well, because it's just like they just shadow and then replicate what another human did, and now you need to put into words, and you just have so many assumptions that are overly overly high context in how you explain something, and now you need to be like low context and write a good prompt, and that's really hard. So you need to see then failures, to then learn from failures in order to fix this kind of problem, that you make a lot of assumptions and that you see the error cases and then plan for all of these use cases that users might be having. I think that's like this is the big thing that people do in these loops, next to switching models or like optimizing cost or latency.
Yeah, I think like definitely I agree. So yeah, I think like the next question is like a sort of extension to that as well. So like when especially like teams sort of like start debugging these like real incidents, like especially production sort of deployed applications, like how do you see that people sort of move between like traces and evals, sort of like data sets like cost data, like user feedback? Have you seen like any patterns in this space? Like I have my sort of way I work, but I would love to hear like what are the common themes and like best practices in this space?
Yeah. Yeah, I think this kind of real incident, like I think an incident in a way of traditional observability where you get paged at night and need to wake up. I think this happens rather rarely, because most of these use cases are rather, you have like a flagged example by, for example, a customer, or by like an automated eval, that some production execution didn't work well, but you just assume that you will have these. So you rather have like a kind of like a cadence in which you either automatically or manually do something with that in order to improve the application. So what we usually see is that from production, you label issue cases either via user feedback or manually annotated, automatically evaluated. Then you have like a list of problematic executions, and then you try to group them or cluster them. And then usually doing two things, either trying to fix them and then see whether fixing them breaks anything else, or recognizing, interesting, there's a use case that we never tested for, and then now adding more test data set examples, so that in the future when you experiment, that you will also optimize for these kinds of use cases. So this is kind of like the loop of, you have like a production level and you have this development level, and you just want to feed back into the development level from what you see in production.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, like, yeah, this is a really interesting area, like about creating these golden datasets, like the eval suits. I mean, there's a lot of literature around this as well that coming out. Like, so where do you see like how people struggle with creating these golden datasets? Like, have you seen anyone doing this really well? Like, have you seen anyone doing it really bad? Like, what does like good look like, and what does bad look like in the eval space?
Yeah. I mean, what's I think interesting is to walk backwards from the goal, and the goal is they should somehow describe the distribution, or like cover the distribution that you want to support with the application, and where users should have a great experience on the end. And that means you need to somehow get to examples that actually map this kind of like whole space. When the question is, what is the space? And it's like very much multidimensional. So the question is, on which dimensions does it spread? And then how do you, one, identify the dimension, and two, how do you create samples within the whole distribution space that you care about? And then how do you maintain it over time? So how do you, because it's not like a one and done, but it's like a continuous effort. I think the best thing is to like use actual production data if you have it. And this can either be, for example, if you try to automate customer support, like pull the tickets of the last month and try to cluster them to understand what's even going on in support. Because support, people working in support won't be able to tell you the full distribution because they only see parts of it. Or it will be way more painful than actually pulling the data. Or second, if you can't do this, but if your users are rather risk tolerant, then you could also just decide to launch the application, put a big like beta label on it, and for the first month just accept that it's not perfect, but you'll see what people will want to do with it, and then you can optimize it. Or if both of them don't work, then I think you can think conceptually about what kind of scales, on what kind of intervals could the distribution be, like the input space on what kind of intervals could it be distributed, like which kinds of dimensions. Describe them, and then try to artificially create like an input space of examples that seems to make sense to you. But I would be like, if you don't have real data, then like coming up with these kind of dimensions is very important, that these dimensions actually make sense. So this is hard.
Yeah, it is hard. Like, it's a very sort of ongoing problem as well. Like, because things change, people change, the way the system sort of works change as well. Yeah,
You really want to be able then to add new items depending on what's happening in production.
yeah,
I think generally everyone is building towards like an automated optimization loop for like agents. Because you won't get it right the first time, but you need to have like continuously and effectively with like high velocity move towards something that increases in quality, capabilities, cost.
Yeah.
And therefore like you want to have like an initial data set, but then you want to think about how you will maintain it over time, and probably having some metadata on each item of this is an item to test for this category, for example, makes sense. So you can group and see, for example, for this category of use cases, you have like 10 items already to test for them. Okay, probably we should add more for another category of problems that you actually care about, so you don't over-index on one compared to the other.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, definitely. It's a hard problem. It's all about like, with the right kind of domain knowledge, you can sort of like, get to some sort of optimal level. So I think the next question is going to be around open source. I know like I'm a huge fan of open source. I love that Langfuse is open source as well. So um, like the first question is like, how does sort of being open source sort of structured the way you look at the product, so and also the business plan, like the product decisions, the architecture, like how does that sort of impact your sort of the roadmap of the product for Langfuse?
Yeah. Generally, I mean, this is an evolution of like today we, for everyone who doesn't know it, Langfuse is almost completely open source, MIT license. You can just run it yourself. Also, you can run it at production scale. Some teams maintain it like billions of events streaming in for like really serious projects. You can, and this works like air gapped, never talk to us, just use the docs. And you even get support from us. So we offer community support via GitHub. If you have a question that's not covered by the documentation, like add a question, and like the maintainers will try to help. Why are we excited about this? Because I mean, the potential, like everyone will build AI applications across so many organizations, and we generally as a team just like the idea of creating a lot of value and then offering things that people do want to pay for. And for example, Langfuse is a very data intensive service where not needing to host it yourself and paying like the Langfuse maintainers like a usage-based fee on Langfuse Cloud to just maintain it with like extremely high availability is generally for most teams like a good, it's like a good financial decision, because even just like 50% of an engineering salary is higher than just paying for Langfuse. Because you want it to be up, you want it to be upgraded, you want it to be safe. Yes, we offer all of these patches, but then you need someone to maintain it and watch out for it, or to scale the databases and stuff. And also support, like if you have questions about like how to use Langfuse, or like integration doesn't look right, or whatever you need on Langfuse Cloud, you can just email a support engineer within the product, and like these are extremely capable people from the core engineering team of Langfuse that will help these customers. So we think open source is awesome. We can create a lot of value, And we are thankful for everyone who just runs it and basically pays back and feedback by letting us know what they need. And thus, with like thousands of threads on Git discussions where it's debated of where the roadmap should be going. And this is a huge contribution to Langfuse, next to actual like pull requests that people raise to fix issues or contribute smaller features. Yeah, very excited about open source. I'm really glad that I think it's easy to be greedy and then I don't know, have some kind of like weird licensing where you run on a database that doesn't scale in open source, and if you want the real thing, you need to pay, or you need to talk to sales in order to use anything. Because even on cloud, you can just self-serve, and some teams have like really big deployments on Langfuse Cloud without ever talking to us. This is mostly modeled after, I think, us founders, because we don't particularly enjoy needing to talk to someone in order to use a product or to try a product. And in this space now, lots of enterprises have these kind of like strict security constraints, or they might not even be strict, but just uncertainties, where then being able to run yourself in your own data center helps a lot. So we paid a lot of, we invested a lot of effort into that every dependency of infrastructure actually is open source and runs on any larger cloud provider. So because it could be easy to now be open source, but still use like some AWS specific tooling. But no, Langfuse comes with Terraform templates for AWS, Azure, and GCP, a Helm chart, if you use Kubernetes directly, and also like a Docker Compose configuration if you just want to try it locally on your own machine, which is also pretty cool, so you can try it without ever signing up for an account.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, highly appreciate that, Mark. That decision, I think, amazing. So, I mean, so I've tried both versions. I've tried the open source version and also like started with the cloud version. I agree, like having the cloud version is relatively easier to deploy, so that you don't have to like pay for an engineer, like relatively cheap. So you can sort of use that, like, and also there's a free version. You can, like, if you're testing something, you can try it out without paying upfront. So you until your sort of product becomes really sort of traces heavy, you can sort of use that. I think, yeah. So that's great.
Yeah, glad that you like it.
Yeah, huge fan. So the next thing I want to like sort of speak about is the ClickHouse acquisition. Would love to understand. I saw like a announcement from you and ClickHouse as well, like about this, but would love to hear like from your side, like sort of what made the decision to get acquired by ClickHouse, and like the whole process behind it. Like, so I remember like you mentioned about like having the ClickHouse sort of the high sort of data volume sort of infrastructure that could be useful for Langfuse. Would love to understand the thought process behind that.
Yeah, I would recommend for anyone hearing about this now, to read our blog post where we went into like great detail. I'll give you the summary. So we are huge fans of the ClickHouse product. We migrated to ClickHouse as like an underlying data store for Langfuse. So ClickHouse is open source, an OLAP DB that initially was built for more like clickstream data, so like web analytics, with the focus of being really fast. So it's great for products that have like very many like interactive analytical workloads, such as Langfuse. I mean, you want to, like, if you look into Langfuse, you don't want to wait for 5 seconds until the chart loads, even if you ingest a lot of data and you want it to be real time. So all of these things are greatly aligned with what ClickHouse is amazing at. And so we switched to ClickHouse from Postgres in end of 2024. So we went from Langfuse version 2 to Langfuse version 3. If you're interested, we wrote like a larger engineering blog post on this migration, as well as like a really big one. And from there on out, like, we love the product. It's really helpful. It helps us scale to like terabytes ingested a day, billions of events. Like, this wouldn't be possible on Postgres, and still many things that are extremely snappy. And currently we're investing even more to optimize Langfuse more for ClickHouse to make it even faster. So yeah, we were huge users of the product. We collaborate on many kind of like more like activities of us giving feedback to the database team, collaborate on kind of like better features and how to optimize it for this workload. And then realized, like, Langfuse is a very data intensive product. And we now either have the option to, for example, build our own systems team or collaborate more deeply with the ClickHouse team. And the same thing also, like, as a team, we are like very product engineering focused now, being able to work with such like a well-established go-to-market team that's really awesome, world-class, with amazing leadership. So yeah, we felt like this really accelerates Langfuse, and we can take Langfuse to the next level much faster than staying independent.
Yeah. I mean,
And I think one thing to say is ClickHouse is like a strong open source culture. So like everything that we ourselves, but also our community cares about, is very much like in good hands now. And the Langfuse team, as it is, we have way more resources to now expand, invest into the product while keeping everything that people care about. Like there are no planned changes to any of these, because like both sides love it. That we get to work on like an open source product, and like it still makes sense as a business because people like to pay us in order to run it for them. So generally, I think as like someone within the Langfuse community, you can be excited that many more features will be coming that were difficult to build before. We'll dramatically increase the team to work on Langfuse. And especially with regards to like scalability, we can now maybe tweak the underlying data store a bit if necessary, or contribute to the underlying data store and send PRs that make Langfuse way better. So yeah, I'm extremely excited about the step and to see what we can achieve this year.
Yeah, yeah. You mentioned a really interesting point, like the having the latency side of things, because like things like prompt management needs like high sort of like low latency, like to get these things in real time, because like so
Yeah.
it's done really well. So like definitely I can understand like the amount of effort must have gone to behind the scenes to get these things working. So yeah,
Yeah, and
should
I mean, the ClickHouse receives these terabytes of traces every day.
yeah,
From
exactly.
management, I mean, from management, it's not a lot of data. It's just like you want it to be reliable and fast. Where I think it's like from management is super important to us, but it's like easier to optimize because we just have like an API level cache with Redis, and then we have like an SDK. Like if you use Langfuse SDK to fetch prompts, it's like an SDK level caching. So if you use it correctly, you should never wait for a prompt. It should always be there, like without ever talking to the server, and then just in the background revalidate. So yeah, like performance, scalability, that if it's production grade, that people can rely on it, that the interfaces are stable. These are all like some of our core tenets of how we build it. And you can go to langfuse.com/why, where we basically write down like what we care about and why people use the product.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, I'll leave some links in the description when we sort of publish this. I think the next question is like sort of looking ahead in observability space. Like, so where do you see like sort of AI observability evolve in the next couple of years? Like, how do you see that? And like, do you see any patterns? And how does like firms like AI companies should sort of think about this and prepare themselves for this? Like, any thoughts on that, Mark?
Yeah. Um, I, I earlier talked about this kind of continuous optimization evaluation loop of going from offering experiments to capturing new production data of the changes you made to then educate again what you should actually be experimenting with. And this is one driver, how to optimize this loop to spin automatically, because you can totally see how like a product like Langfuse can make automated suggestions to change data sets and update them, or can use, for example, like Cloud Code in a CLI to automatically suggest code changes that are then automatically tested on these data sets to be like, oh, Langfuse identified something, Langfuse suggested how to change an agent, and now it's getting better. This is, I think, one part of our roadmap. I think the other is how to work with the data, because you ingest terabytes of data, like millions of like executions of agents, and these agents are super deep with lots of text in the reasoning. But now the question is, how do you visualize this so you can interactively explore and understand what's the application doing, what kind of like error patterns exist, and this is also very exciting for us, like roadmap wise. And I think the agentic systems in practice, they will be way more. We see way more use cases where like long-running agents with file systems where they actually work. I think I don't know about your personal productivity. I use Cursor a lot, even for like personal productivity. Of I don't know, I want to check whether 10 contracts actually have the right names in it. Okay, I'll just drop them in a folder and ask Cursor to write a script in order to parse PDF files and map them to a CSV. Like I'm not opening 10 long PDF files and trying to check it myself. And I think we'll see way more of these agents that rather have like file system access, are longer running, have lots of reasoning, and having tooling to be able, when something goes wrong, that you can actually inspect it, share it with the team. So just like the old look at traces, error analysis, but then also how to do this in like an auto-regressive way. I think that's really interesting. And right now, I think it's mostly capture the data and think about what kind of feedback signal you can add to the trace. So in production, you should always think about like a feedback signal where how the user interacts with the output can kind of indicate whether it's good or not. For example, we have many customers in more of the customer support space, where if you make a suggestion to a human agent of what to respond, if the human agent just accepts the suggested message and sends it out, this is a great feedback signal. If they edit it a lot, it's a great feedback signal of whether the message was good or not. So thinking about these kinds of like UXs for the front end to then collect the feedback is super helpful.
Yeah, 100%. And a new point about Cursor, like, yeah, I mean, I use it as like all-in-one tool. Like, it's like my sort of AI sort of operating system. So I like even to like convert file formats. Like, if I need to like do some analysis, just put everything there. Like to check certain APIs, it can do everything. So I think like yeah, so Cursor is becoming this like operating system for me. Like I can do certain like even small tasks done. Like so it's amazing. Yeah, I agree with
Yeah,
you.
LLMs got really good at FFmpeg, so now I can cut videos without needing to know how FFmpeg works.
Exactly. Yeah. Even if I need to download like a YouTube or a Twitter video, like I can just give the URL, like, to write the code and download it. Like, yeah, it's
Yeah,
amazing.
very nice.
Yeah, I agree. So we're almost at the end. Like one last question, Mark. So this is for the younger generation who would be sort of entering the job market, who could have done like undergraduate degrees or directly going into the job market after high school. So if you were entering the job market and like what sort of advice you would give yourself to your younger self to prepare themselves in this sort of AI driven job market. So yeah, sort of jobs are very like changing a lot, so would love to hear your thoughts and like your advice to your younger self.
Yeah. It's very specific to caveat this advice to myself or like to a potential different myself that currently enters the job market, where I think if I would to start right now, I mean, I started working many years ago where there was no AI like this. But I think today I see a huge difference between different teams we work with, but also generally when talking to friends, family. There's a big difference between jobs where like you are actively encouraged to experiment and see what's possible.
Yeah.
And there are jobs where it's actively constrained and you need to really push hard on to use anything. And I think it's really important to be at a place together with people who are excited about the technology, where you can tinker around, see what works. I don't know, cloud co-work jobs. It would be like not great to have like a boss that tells you, oh, now spending 2 hours on trying how this could be applied to your work is a bad use of your time. Like this should be like an excellent use of your time to
Yeah.
try these things and then see well what happens. Because for example, in our team, we try to encourage this quite broadly to just spend as much time as seems reasonable on using these tools and then sharing with the rest of the group. Oh, this is what I learned. This works well.
Yeah.
Because once you see an example of someone using Cloud Cowork with a skill to summarize all customer calls of the last week in order to derive broad insights. I don't know, these kind of things. When you see
Yeah.
someone doing it, then you're like, oh, interesting. I have these other workflows that probably could benefit as well, and I should invest. What does this bring you? One, like as these systems get increasingly better, like capability wise, like you have more experience in how they actually work under the hood, how you can manage context, because so many people don't get value out of ChatGPT, but I think that's kind of like an issue of not understanding of how to provide sufficient context and instruct well.
Yeah.
And thus, I think it's still early. I would try to focus a lot of time on understanding how these systems work, because as they get more capable, you'll be the best person then to use the more capable systems. And yeah, being at a place where you can try experiment and it's encouraged. Because I think some teams, or at least that's my goal for the Langfuse team, is some teams will just have like such a productivity gain, and you basically, I don't know, instead of a marketing function, you have a single head of marketing.
Yeah.
Maybe you still need a couple of specialists, but at
Yeah.
least you have a couple of people that have like huge leverage and can just think and do both at the same time without needing to instruct other people. And I think that's really exciting. And as someone entering the job market, I feel like there are not that many people that can convey how good they are at using these systems. So I think, for example, blogging about them, having some side projects of, oh, I built these three things, or oh, tell me a problem, I'll show you how to use AI. Like it's still, I think, fairly simple to impress and then be really much at the top of the range of,
Yeah.
oh, you really know what you're doing. And this is exciting. And I think many teams are looking for people who are like the catalyst of bringing these kinds of things into a team. So yeah, I think it might be a tough market for some profiles, but I think for the profile of, oh, I'm excited about the technology and I want to see how it works and I want to apply it to problems and that's super cool. It's, I think, a great time. And yeah, I would try to be that person, because there's also like the fun way of seeing what works and playing with it.
Yeah, I think like with AI tools, like we see this builder culture sort of coming along. So, like a lot of people are becoming builders, sort of building applications, building certain tools. You can experiment like even like hardware, which was harder before. Like with AI, you can sort of like figure out certain things much faster. You don't need to like go through these printed documents and to figure out like what sort of transistors to sort of change. So I've seen a lot of people sort of now sort of start tinkering with hardware as well because of AI. So I think like definitely I agree
Mm.
with you. Yeah. So amazing. So Mark, thanks a lot for the conversation. I really enjoyed it. And yeah, super excited for Langfuse sort of journey, like with ClickHouse and like well wishes from our side. And yeah, so thanks a lot, Mark.
Yeah, thanks, Aki. And for everyone who's like part of the Langfuse community here, um, it's such a joy to work with you all. Please let me know if you have any feedback. There's a lot of product coming. So there's currently this 2026 like feedback thread on GitHub discussions. Please add your thoughts. I really want to hear from you. Yeah, can't wait to see where we'll take Langfuse this year because yeah, there's lots to be built and this space is quickly moving. I can't be more excited. Thank you, Aki, for the session.
All right. Thank you, Mark.